Before I passed out, I remember thinking, Lord, I don't want to die. I have so much to live for.
Mm.
Well, about 30 minutes later, I hear her yelling, Dad, Dad, they're coming, they're coming. And I woke up and all the color was back in my eyes. That was a real confirmation to me that God's presence was there with me.
Today on the Strong Church podcast, we're joined by Pastor Luke Barnett, the lead pastor of Dream City Church in Phoenix, Arizona. Pastor Luke's a visionary leader who's seen God move powerfully through the local church, not only to reach people spiritually, but to impact cities practically. From launching major initiatives to combat trafficking to standing boldly for truth in a wavering culture, Pastor Luke brings both conviction and compassion to the calling of the church. You're going to be inspired by this conversation with my friend, Pastor Luke Barnett. Pastor Luke, welcome to Strong Church Podcast.
It's great to be here today.
I think this idea of being here is not something we should take for granted. I think that you've got a little bit of a story to tell. I want to pull out from you here at the top. Let's talk about this hiking accident that you had back in, was it 2020?
That's right. Yeah, it was a COVID year, so churches weren't operating normally during that time. We were open having services, but my daughter, Anna Lee, she was getting married that next year, and she said, Dad, I've been training. I've always wanted to do the Arizona Trail. Now, the Arizona Trail goes from the border of Arizona, Utah, all the way down to the border of Arizona, Mexico, 800 miles swerving through the state of Arizona, and 118,000 feet of elevation gain.
Wow.
So it's one of the most rugged national trails. So we trained from February all the way through September, took off on September 27th from the border of Utah, and down through Arizona we went. 5 days into that hike, I got a kidney stone coming up the backside of the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
And that little stone almost derailed
Kidney stone's a bad thing anywhere, but I can imagine, it goes quickly from a frustration and something you got to deal with, when you're in town and you're a hospital, to out there it becomes a medical crisis.
I lay there, I thought, I've had about 5 kidney stones, so they don't pass through me fast. But in 1 hour, somehow I passed it. I limped out of the Grand Canyon, went to the hospital, got IVs, back on the trail. The goal was 20 miles a day for 40 days. And
Wow.
so you can imagine how old that got, getting up every morning.
Are you staying? What are you sleeping in at
We're
night?
carrying our tents, we're carrying our stuff. When we came into towns, we'd sleep in hotels.
Yeah.
But so we made it 500 miles into the trail down in the Superstition Mountains, which is about 40 miles east of Phoenix. And my daughter and I were coming down this very steep part of the trail, coming down to a riverbed. And I recall telling Anna Lee, be careful, it's very slick through here. So we came to a part where we had to put our hands on these 2 massive boulders and let our feet down about 3 feet to catch the trail. So she went first, and she let her feet down. She jumped down and caught the trail. And she was waiting underneath this massive boulder. And she has her AirPods on. She's not paying attention. And so the moment I put my hands on those 2 boulders, the one right above her shifts in the earth. And it's going to just crush her. She's not paying attention. So I scream, Anna Lee, move. And my feet hit the ground. I push her out of the way. And then the 7,000-pound boulder, long, flat boulder, caught me in the back. And it just rode me and grinded me down the trail, very steep part, for about 20 feet. At the last minute, somehow miraculously, it caught a smaller boulder the size of a volleyball and just kind of propped up a little bit. And she was able to reach underneath and grab my straps and pull me down the hill from underneath it.
Wow.
And I didn't know it at the time, but I had a broken femur, I had a broken hip. My left forearm was completely snapped. 3 of my ribs were broken. My hand, I almost lost my middle finger here. It's all kinds of damage. So I am laying there on that trail. And she just sprang into action. She went through all the emergency training I did, and I blew it off. Nothing bad ever happens to us, right? And she tried to call the medics with our satellite phone, but we were so deep in this canyon, we couldn't even get a signal. So she had to leave me and hike 30 minutes up, to get a signal. And during that time, all the color, I'm laying there, all the color went out of my eyes. And all I saw was black and white.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, is this what death looks like?
Yeah.
I was probably going into shock. And I just passed out. And before I passed out, I remember thinking, Lord, I don't want to die. I have so much to live for. I had a tremendous peace if I did die, but we have a thriving church and helping people.
Yeah.
So much I want to see my daughter get married. Well, about 30 minutes later, I hear her yelling, Dad, Dad, they're coming, they're coming. And I woke up and all the color was back in my eyes. That was a real confirmation to me that God's presence was there with me.
Yeah.
They air vac me out of there in a little body bag, lift me out, and 12 days in the hospital recovering, then PT. And but during that whole time, this story went viral all across the world. And we were doing this hike to raise money for our mission. I'll talk about that in just a moment, up in Colorado City, where we're rescuing young ladies from human trafficking. And money began to come in from all over the world. We ended up raising $3.5 million,
That's incredible.
paying off all the facilities up there. So, and I'm fine today. It's like it never happened. And God used that moment, and he turned it for his good.
Wow. The enemy always wants to, kill, steal, and destroy.
That's right.
But God has a way of flipping that around and, bringing good out of it.
I got a great story to tell.
right on. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously there's a deep legacy of faith in your family. I think many people are familiar with your father, Pastor Tommy Barnett, and had the opportunity to play golf with you guys here recently in Augusta. That was an incredible experience. And, there's just such a legacy of faith there. Let's talk about, kind of Dream City Church and some of these other ancillary ministries that you guys have built around that. Kind of paint a picture of what that looks like today.
Yeah. Well, my great-great-granddad was a Baptist preacher.
Wow.
My great-granddad was a Baptist preacher. My granddad was a Assembly of God Pentecostal preacher. And my dad, of course, led Phoenix First Assembly for years. So I'm fourth generation.
Did you ever have a thought of doing something else? Or did you, what if you weren't pastoring, what was it going to be?
Well, my ambition was to be a professional golfer.
Okay.
I was 19, 20 years old. I played college baseball one year in California. And when I got on the local tour in Arizona, I realized that I wasn't much. That it's so competitive. And but my dad never pushed us into ministry. He just felt like if God wanted us there, he would call us into it. And so he saw me struggling one day, and I think he said to me, if someone calls you and asks you to come preach at their church, maybe you ought to do it just to see if God will use you or if you're called to do that. I said, sure, if someone calls me, knowing that no pastor calls people
just
who don't preach. Yeah. And so the next week, a pastor from Goodyear, Arizona, that my dad didn't even know, Eugene High School was his name, he called me and said, I just feel led to ask you to come preach. Do you do that kind of thing? I said, I don't do that kind of thing. But I told my dad, I accused my dad of setting the whole thing up, and he said, I don't know that, man, but you said you would do it. And so, man, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't a preacher. I got one of my dad's sermons and tried to memorize it, and it just wasn't natural.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I stumbled and stammered through that sermon. But when I got to the invitation time, the altar call time, that was natural to me.
Interesting.
And that just really flowed. And that night, a lady came forward and gave her heart to the Lord, and that was my calling into the ministry.
Hooked from there.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you guys have built here, because Dream City Church is it is an incredible force for the kingdom here in the greater Phoenix area. I've been on your campus multiple times there, and just so impressed with not only obviously the facility is beautiful and it's easy to notice that off the bat, but your team is incredible. The heart behind what you guys do, there's just so much good that's taking place there. So talk to us a little bit. Obviously, you have your Sunday morning experiences and weekend services. How many services are you guys doing now?
Well, we have 11 locations.
Okay.
So we have, I guess it'd be 22 different services going on. And really the heartbeat of the church, it's been known in the Valley as the church with a heart. And my dad has always been a guy that went after the underdogs, those who are hurting. The mantra has been find a need and fill it, find a hurt and heal it. And so our role as people in the church, we believe every member is a minister. Yeah. And on the day of Pentecost, when the Spirit came, every one of those people in the upper room had a little tongue of fire over their heads. And on that day, there was really no more distinction between the clergy and the lay people. And the mission was, you're all pastors now, you're all ministers now. And so we just encourage the people of our church to leave that place on Sunday and to go out as ministers. We believe the battle is won on Sunday, really on Saturday. how active our people have been in inviting and gathering up all the broken people in the valley. You know, we have several wheelchair buses. So if you come on Sunday, you'll see wheelchairs across the front of the church. For many years, we had 52 buses
Wow.
busing in kids, you know, from the ghettos who
Yeah.
had no way to get to church. And those kids grow up and become great business people.
Yeah.
And so it's really, that's been the heartbeat of our church. Just my dad made a statement one time. He said, if we go after people that nobody wants, God will give us people that everybody wants. And we've seen that to be true in our church. You have a millionaire sitting next to a person that rode the bus from the streets.
Wow.
And it's a real picture of what heaven's going to look like.
So, I think that our audience, we have a lot of Christian leaders, a lot of pastors that watch and listen to this, as well as, just believers of all kind. The show is called Strong Church, and I think that you guys really embody that. We talk all the time at TPUSA Faith that in many ways that I think Dream City is a prototype church for what we would hope that all of the churches that we work with can become. And you guys have been such great examples in that. It's rare, though, I think, unfortunately, in today's world, and feel free to push back on me if you disagree, but I think that oftentimes the bigger a church gets, the less likely they are to take strong stands on certain topics, right? I can remember talking to a pastor one time, and he says, "Look, I'm with you guys 100% on these issues, but I've got a $40,000 a month lease payment, and so I can't run the risk of splitting my church by taking a stand on marriage or issue of life or whatever." And that becomes, I think, very difficult for people to hear and know that that's at times, something that pastors are even wrestling with today. How have you guys managed, as you've grown bigger, to also simultaneously keep that conviction on the Word of God and to be that strong church?
Well, for us, our moment of truth came, and we've always spoken out about issues. We've always been, vocal on, the abortion issue and, the homosexual issue and all those kinds of things. But in 2020, the year I was training, we were also fighting a battle. And Charlie Kirk, came to our church, and he said to us one day, could I lease out your facility for a Young Conservatives rally? And I said, well, sure. We do that all the time. We lease our church out. It's a 4,000-seat auditorium, so it's a popular place to have events. And so we signed the contract, shook hands. Yeah, you're on. And then a week before the event, he said, President Trump has agreed to come. And this is in the summer of love, the George Floyd, everyone's masked up, just a very tense time. And he said, I just knew that you were going to cancel at that moment and say, we're not going to do it. But here's how I feel. I've got to be able to sleep at night. When I got into the ministry, I was so idealistic and I really didn't care what anyone thought. As a young man, I was just fervent about preaching the gospel, the whole gospel, and what I believed and what the Bible says, how Jesus feels about things and culture. And so I told Charlie we're going to move forward with it. The event happened, 4,000 people, not a mask on in the whole place, And I just, Antifa burning things down on Cave Creek Road in front of our church.
Wow.
Some of our staff members who are in our arts department, we have a rather large arts department, they were out there marching against our own church.
Wow.
It told me a lot about ourselves during that time, about our church, about the kind of leaders I was raising up, about maybe my lack of clarity on some things. And so after that event, most of our church, our staff members got COVID. So we shut down for 1 week just so we could manage. And when we came back, I began to lay it down very clearly about what this church is, who we are, what we believe in, what we're going to stand on. And about that time, I felt led to call Charlie and have lunch with him. Never forget the location out in Scottsdale. And I began to share my heart for helping to kind of lead the pack in the nation with him.
Yeah.
And to encourage churches to stand strong in our nation. And we came up with this idea of Freedom Night in America. And for the last 4 years, every month, the first Wednesday, we bring a guest in who speaks to the issues of our culture and bringing biblical perspective to the next generation. And we do that with boldness and clarity. So, to me, about that time, I told our church, we're going to build this church on Micah 6:8. What does the Lord expect of you, right? To do justice, And justice is not something it's not a feeling, it's something
Yeah.
you do. You do justice.
And obviously that word's been hijacked by Marxist ideology and everything else.
No
But
doubt about it.
there's a biblical understanding of what true justice actually
That's
is.
exactly right. And to love mercy, walk humbly with God. I told our church, the church is supposed to be the thermostat of culture. We're not supposed to be the thermometer.
Yeah, it's good.
We set the temperature, we set the tone. And if the temperature around our church is very cold, it's because the church has failed. And but if all you have is truth, in doing justice, then you're kind of a mean church. You gotta combine it with loving mercy, loving your city, rescuing people, feeding people. And because we were known as the church with the heart in the city who rescue people, when we really started standing strong and getting in this battle in 2020, like, wait a minute, isn't that church that just operates like a democratic organization, feeding people and loving people and rescuing people? So we confounded our city a little bit.
Yeah.
But it really gave us a stage to be able to, people listened to us because they knew we had a track record of doing good works in the city. And the last thing we said was we're going to do it humbly. We're just going to love the Lord. And when we communicate on some of these hard issues, we're going to do it with more of a tear in our eye, not a ha-ha, mentality or just a very humble spirit. So, I think as pastors, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can be people who reach out and love our city and have compassion. But if you don't have that without the truth, the standard of God's word, then you really become just a socialistic institution.
So let's talk about the pastor out there that is hearing this and feels inspired. They're already ideologically aligned. They're biblically aligned. And they're saying, look, I want to find a way to, in a positive sense, disrupt my community a little bit, to be a force for grace and truth, here on a local level. And you've done a great job, I think, of balancing that truth aspect of preaching the word with boldness and without, shrinking back, and then also demonstrating the love of God through a lot of the programmatic aspects that you do, from the anti-trafficking to, busing in, probably underserved populations to be able to make it to church on Sundays. What are some other ways, or how would you encourage pastors to start looking at their community to identify some of those needs if you were, say, consulting with that pastor out there, listening right now?
Yeah. Well, it's looking around your community and finding needs. What is not being done? This past week, our Adopt the Block program found a brand new need in the city. We're setting up hydration systems, centers all across Phoenix with a tent and a couple people there with cold water for people just who are living on the streets in some cases. Give them cold water, share their faith, just little things like that become iconic, and be big things for churches to do, and it gets people involved. So, there's needs all around us. One guy said, I really want to start a food ministry. Well, here's how you do it. Find hungry person, make a sandwich, give sandwich to hungry person. You got a food ministry.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be big or some colossal ministry. And I think it's just a matter of, making that known to the church, providing opportunities for people to step up and be the ministers that God's called them to be, and validating that. I think sometimes in churches we put so much red tape around the startup of new ministries that it just confines and constricts and kills the ministries. And sometimes a little bit of ministries being in chaos is good. Then you got to control them and organize them. But then you go into chaos a little more than control. Chaos is where God has done some of the greatest things in our church, where, he was just moving and we were going with it. But then we thought we better get control of this thing, So I think that if you're never in chaos, you don't provide space for the supernatural to really move.
That's a great point. I mean, look, if you can control everything in your life, then you're probably not operating in His power and His Spirit in that sense. And so I think that getting ourselves to a point of where it is a little bit uncomfortable, where we don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
You're stepping out in faith in that way. I want to end on this a little bit. What encouragement would you have for pastors that are out there, I'm sure, and you kind of alluded this to some degree, you had some staff members that disagreed with some of your stances that you took. I'm assuming you lost some team members along the way.
The whole arts department.
Yeah, whole arts department. That's a major loss for a church, especially a church of the size that you guys are. How have you navigated that loss and kind of built back on the other side of this?
Let me share the rest of the story.
Yeah.
What happened after 2020 passed? We were in the newspaper a lot because we were that church that was standing, and so because it was COVID, I was only seeing about 40 or 50% people in church. I'm thinking, man, we've lost the whole church. Where are they? They're not with us. But the bottom line just kept going like this: the finances.
Yeah.
And what happened was, because of our strong stand, just doing the right thing. Not being mean about it, but just staying on the truth. There were a lot of people in the valley who were not Christians, but they were conservative. They had conservative values.
Yeah.
And they appreciated the stand. So in 2021 and 2022, when things really people started coming back, our congregation looked completely different.
Yeah.
We had capitalists sitting out there in the crowd. We have big business owners in the crowd because they were people that weren't maybe Christians, but at least they gave me an audience because of our values were the same. And I never thought I'd hear my dad say this, but he said, maybe we've been fishing in the wrong pond. I said, what do you mean? I want everyone to come to the Lord. He goes, I do too. But he said, a lot of the people that we've reached out to for 4 years in our arts department were from the LBGT community.
Yeah.
And they were involved in some of the programs of our church. And the moment we just kept our word and had the conference, because we signed a contract, they were out there with Antifa, And I don't want to paint it with a broad brush, but that was my experience. And they weren't with us. And what happened was, when we opened back up, it was a whole new crowd that allowed us to do things financially we've never been able to do: buy new locations, start new campuses, go to new territory that are now reaching new people.
Yeah, I think that the church has to think about ways to distinguish our message from what people think they're going to hear and from what the stereotypes that they probably have about us. And it sounds like that you guys are finding a lot of really great and powerful ways to do that. And we appreciate so much the partnership that you have, with all of us here at TPUSA Faith. And if people want to find out more about you, your church, some of your other ministries, and get involved with those, where can they go?
DreamCityChurch.us is our website. And I'm not really sure about where it's found on Instagram, but
we can add it to the show notes.
Put it underneath the banner there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And are you still taking preaching invitations, or that?
Yeah, I'm still doing that. We're just really busy right now. Our dream one day is, along with some of the great churches in Phoenix, is that Arizona would be known one day as that Christian state. States are known for things.
Yep.
Utah's known for Mormonism.
Yep.
California is known for movie stars. Why can't there be one church known for, hey, that's that Christian state? That's our dream one day.
Love it. Love it. No, absolutely. You guys are doing a great job of paving the way towards that goal. Thank you so much for coming on Strong Church and joining us here. If you want to find out more about Pastor Luke, you can check out all the notes here on the show notes. But we appreciate you so much watching. Until next time, stay strong.